I'm definitely not a pro FPV pilot, but wait, before you click away, check out these FPV shots. Not bad, right? So I'm still sick, so excuse my voice. But the thing is, it's not normal to be flying a drone, an FPV, like 100k an hour through gaps and through goggles. So it's completely normal to be nervous, to have sweaty hands and to shake. I do that all the time. Every time I fly, no matter what, the adrenaline is just, it's just there. I finish flying and my hands are like all the time, so it's completely normal. So don't worry, these shots we're going to cover today, they're not going to make you lose your drone or crash it, or they're not too risky, but they still look amazing in the FPV world. So the first one is actually flying through gaps. Bit of a misconception is that you think you should fly through tiny gaps to make a beautiful shot, but the thing is, you don't have to actually fly that close to things. And the reason is because you're flying with, most of you probably, a GoPro, which is a 12mm lens, which means that pretty much anything you fly through, let's say, I don't know, 1 or 2 meters, that's actually, let's say 2 meters. If you fly away from something for 2 meters, it still looks pretty close because of the kind of warp of the lens. So all you gotta do is fly gaps that are big enough to, you know, like 2 palm trees, for example, to go through it. Very easy, very simple. You don't risk your drone and you get a very nice effect with the motion blur. To get the best motion blur, as always, remember to use ND filters to make sure your shutter speed is double your frame rate so that you get a nice natural blur look. The second one, which is probably the most famous FPV shot, is the dive. Diving mountains, waterfall, and all these things can be very challenging, and to me, I haven't really done it, to be honest. All of the dives that I've done are very simple, like cliffs down to the ocean or like something like that, so it's not too extreme. I haven't dived a waterfall yet. I don't think I want to, because it just looks sketchy. But what I'm trying to say is that, again, you don't have to be crazy, you know, super close to the mountain and then dive and then just lift the drone just before you touch the water or whatever, the rocks or whatever. You don't have to do crazy stuff like that. All you're gonna do is practice your throttle and how it reacts with your quad. So the way I do it, my nose is so blocked. The way I do it is I went in the park and I simply just lifted the drone up and dive down straight to the ground, imagining I'm diving a cliff, and then lift it before it hit the ground. You do that a few times until you get pretty comfortable and you understand how the drone actually reacts to your throttle. And once you learn that, you can pretty much do it and try it. One thing to remember is the wind. I never actually dive when there's wind, just because it might affect the way your quad lifts at the end, so you might actually crash. And then once you dive, at the end of the dive, you want to be as close to the ground as possible, obviously without crashing. But again, you don't actually have to be, you know, like 30-40 centimeters from the ground. You can be like 1 or 2 meters and it'll still look good. The next up is actually something I really enjoy to do with my normal DJI drone, but if done right with an FPV, is actually pretty easy, and it actually looks very nice, which is either following or circling around someone. If you can get to practice that you're pretty much following or circling around someone at kind of the same height of them, it's just gonna look crazy cinematic. You don't have to go through crazy gaps or go super fast. This shot can actually be done very slowly and it will just have a just very nice cinematic effect. And all of the shots that we covered today are just meant to be cinematic. They don't have to be crazy fast freestyle. That's not the kind of FPV I like, to be honest. I like slow cinematic shot through little gaps so they can see it's an FPV, but it's also still a cinematic shot. It's not just like a whee, you know what I mean. And then the last shot we're going to cover today is the reveal backwards. Obviously you're not going to reveal anything backwards, you're just going to do it, you know, forward, and then you're going to reverse the shot. So make sure when you do this shot you don't do it to something that it's obviously backwards. You want to still make sure that whoever's watching your shot things that you went backwards. So I don't recommend doing this with somewhere where there's waves, for example, or any body of water, or with a subject that is obviously going forward. So one perfect shot for this would be you flying through a gap of nature, revealing a epic shot. So you see maybe like a mountain or a volcano, and then you go back through the jungle or something like that. I think it would be very, very cool. But just remember, if you do this shot, keep in mind that whatever you're shooting has to be still, or doesn't have to be any motion forward, so that you can tell that it's not reversed. So as you can see, you don't need to be a pro FPV pilot to get these epic shots. All you gotta keep in mind is keep it simple and keep it cinematic. Don't overdo it. Don't try to do this FPV freestyle look. I don't think it's a good look, at least if you want to try and keep FPV cinematic. So that's all for today, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next video.